All right, guys, before we get into the intro and the entire Elizabeth Smart interview, just trigger warning. It definitely some really, really graphic detail about the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart. So just want to give you guys a heads up coming into the episode. All right, folks, welcome back. Another edition of the Brilliantly Dumb Show. For those of you watching the episode Tuesday, we talked a little bit about the interview that I did with Elizabeth Smart that we're about to get into. Obviously, we talked about it, a change of pace for sure. I used to do a lot of like interview styles early for those who've been watching early in the Brilliantly Dumb Show. Always loved doing it, but when this opportunity came up, paid so close attention to the Elizabeth Smart case, even though I was only 9. I just remember that just taking the world by storm and really, really hit with me. She followed me on Instagram about a week or two ago. And I asked her for the opportunity, couldn't pass it up. So wanted to at least put it out there for you guys. Again, I know it's a little bit different. For those who don't know, I Wikipedia'd it. On June 5th, 2002, a 14-year-old girl named Elizabeth Ann Smart was kidnapped by Brian David Mitchell from her home in the Federal Heights neighborhood of Salt Lake City, Utah. She was held captive by Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee, on the outskirts of Salt Lake City and later in San Diego County, California. Her captivity lasted approximately 9 months before she was discovered in Sandy, Utah, approximately 18 miles from her home. Smart was abducted at knife point by Mitchell while her younger sister, Mary Catherine, pretended to be asleep. Mitchell, who claimed to be a religious preacher, held Smart at a camp in the woods with Barzee, where he repeatedly raped her during her captivity. Smart accompanied her captors in public on various occasions, dressed head to toe in white robes, and went largely unrecognized by those she came in contact with. After her rescue, Smart became an advocate for missing persons and victims of sexual assault. Barzee was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison in 2009 for her role in the abduction, although she was granted early release on September 19th, 2018. It was a no-brainer for me to do this, and Elizabeth is unbelievable. Doing the interview, I try not to get emotional, but it's just the stuff you hear, you just can't fathom happening to anybody, even a 14-year-old girl. It's brutal. It's horrible, but the way she's getting her story out there, she helps a ton of people. She's a public speaker now. Truly, truly incredible. Her husband's actually a fan of the show, which is awesome. So a big shout out to him. But again, I really hope you guys enjoy it. Watch the Netflix documentary coming out. For those watching now, it's already out on Elizabeth Smart. It's mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. So give it a look. Shout out Elizabeth for coming on. We're gonna put the link in the bottom if you want to donate to her charity. Something I felt that I just had to do and really really wanted to do. I think it's incredible what she's doing, and being able to separate what happened to her and her reality now. So just incredible, really really cool. To have the opportunity to interview her. We're going to get into it again, a totally different style, Brilliantly Dumb Show episode, but really hope you guys enjoy. Appreciate your guys' support, regardless of what the episode is. And here we go. Elizabeth Smart interview coming out. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to do it.
I really do. You got the Netflix doc coming. My friends were giving me a hard time because when I saw that you followed me, obviously I followed your story for so long, so closely. It had to be a ridiculous thing to get to a request to come on the Brilliantly Dumb Show to tell your story of all things.
Oh, well, I don't think any of my my husband, after I followed you and you messaged me, like his friend who was in town visiting from Australia, like he was like, "Wait, what?" He messaged me and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't believe you. Let me see." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "I followed him for years and you just barely follow him and he reached out to you." And it's like kind of funny because I mean he's like a nice guy, but we don't
That's
actually have a
right.
lot in common. Like I didn't grow up with him or anything, and it was just funny because all of a sudden he was like chatting to me, and I was like, "Okay."
Your husband from Scotland?
Yeah,
We went there for a golf trip. It was one of the most fun golf trips we have ever been on. It's just incredible.
it is a beautiful country. I'm afraid I'm I'm not a golfer, but my husband's grandpa lives for golf, and so every time we go there, he's, like, talking to me about all the courses, and he's like, "You gotta experience this, you gotta experience that," and I was like,
You
"Thank."
know what? I wasn't too into golf, until we obviously, like, started the show, so I didn't understand, like, really the history of it all there, and now I get it. When you're out there, you can kind of feel it. Um, but yes, so happy to chat. Obviously, the documentary, is coming out, but before anything, and, I just wanna say, me and my girlfriend, we'd watched, like, a documentary that I think A&E did, and whatnot, but besides any of that, like, hearing you talk, and I know you do a lot of public speaking now and everything, the way you talk and the way that you're able to separate, like, what happened to you and use it to help so many people, but, like, with the maturity that you speak about it. Like, I've seen interviews of you a lot younger, not too far removed from when it happened, and the way you talk about it, you're just so mature in the way you talk about it and the way that you can separate everything. And you said something to me when I DM'd you that, like, you don't know how strong you are until you have no choice but to be strong. And you hear people say that, but hearing you say that and with what you've been through, it just really hit with me. And I am truly in awe of just how strong you are.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean it. It's unbelievable. And I mean, just to get into it for us with just the Brilliantly Dumb Show. So usually, we're a comedy podcast, but to have the opportunity to talk to you, it didn't matter to me. I really wanted to kind of go into your story. And for me, when this had happened so long ago, 2002, I was 9, and I remember being so horrified of what was happening, and that is every person's worst nightmare, to go to sleep and somebody be in your room, and to take you from what's supposed to be your safe space in your home. And I wanted to ask you, when Brian Mitchell did come in to your room and that's happening, he holds you at enough knife point and says to come with you. You have your sister in your bed, and I've heard you mention that you knew you had to be strong for your sister. You're still so young. How long did it take you until, like, of course, when you just wake up, you're kind of groggy, until, like, you were able to realize, okay, this is really happening. This isn't a dream, where, like, it really set in what was going on.
Well, when he came into my room, um, like, he he came to my side of the bed. He put, like, the knife against my neck and said, "Don't make a sound. I have a knife at your neck. Get up and come with me." And when he first said that, I thought it was my subconscious. I thought there's no way. I mean, no one could break into my home and get all the way upstairs to my bedroom. I mean, I wasn't on the ground floor and take me at knife point. This has just got to be a dream. There's no way that this is real. And he repeated the words again a second time. "I have a knife at your neck. Don't make a sound. Get up and come with me." And it's really when he said it that second time that I could actually feel the pressure of the knife against my neck, that I could feel his hand on my arm trying to pull me out of bed, that I actually opened my eyes and saw him standing above me. And I just remember, I mean, all the way through my house, into my backyard, up to the street behind us, trying to make sense of the situation. How was this happening to me? Why was this happening to me? Was this an elaborate joke? I couldn't imagine why anyone would think it was a good
Yeah.
joke, but I think your mind just goes in any direction that it can to try to make sense of the situation out. And I also think my mind in particular, I guess I can only speak for myself, but my mind in particular typically wants to go to, like, the most innocent reason why this could be happening. I think it's like a protect mechanism within me. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is a joke," or, "Oh, he's kidnapping because maybe he lost a daughter," or maybe they could never have kids, and that's why they're kidnapping me. I mean, that's where my brain went. I mean, it was wrong, but I think that's just where it went in order to try to protect me and trying to calm down the fear that I felt inside.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, and you might have been asked this before, but, like, watching it and the story and whatnot, and you pretty much had the whole country looking for you, search parties, helicopters. Just how long, like, my initial thought when you see it is like, she has to be found because there's so many people looking for her. Like, just how far up the mountain did you go in order for people to not I know you said there was times when you were at the camp where you could hear people calling you, but, like, just how far up did he take you? How long were you walking for?
So, I mean, it's about 3.5 miles from my home,
Okay.
which, I mean, on one hand, doesn't sound like it's that far, like, it sounds like it's really super close, but I actually just hiked back up there this past October, and,
Wow.
I mean, it's like, I've been back a handful of times since then. It's
Really?
probably the last time I'll ever go back there. I mean, it is so overgrown. Nobody else would recognize where it's at. I mean, nature is really, like, reclaimed where I was held captive at, but beyond that, it is just so difficult to get back there unless you knew exactly where it was. I understand completely why nobody found me. I mean, it's far back up there. It is difficult, very, very difficult to get to. I mean, like, I consider myself a pretty fit person nowadays,
Yeah.
and, like, I was in good hiking shoes. I, like, had water with me. I had all the things with me, and even with all of that, like, by the time we were done, I was like, "Yeah, I'm done. Like, no more. I'm done."
It's hard to imagine that somebody who's clearly such a mentally unstable person was able to, and it seems, of course, kind of pre-planned to where he was able to kind of elude all these people to where it was clearly planned and he had known what he was doing. And do you like heard you talk about like where you could see or hear the helicopter coming over you? Was that times where you're like, okay, they have to see me now, or were you still even at that point like it's so hard to see?
Well, even that first morning, I remember thinking, I mean, as soon as he got me into camp, I mean, he married me,
Yeah.
wanted to rape me immediately, and I remember just even thinking, if I could hold him off just, like, a little while, someone would find me. Because I think that night I was so full of adrenaline, I didn't realize just how difficult of a climb it was to get to this hiding place. It didn't even counter in my brain, like, I was just, like, pumped full of adrenaline,
Yeah.
and so I actually thought we were a lot closer than we were, and, I remember just thinking, "I just have to hold him off a little while. I just have to hold him off a little while, and someone will rescue me. Like, I will be home by the end of today. I will be home soon. Like, I just have to hold him off. Someone's gonna find me. Someone's gonna rescue me. This can't actually happen to me." And,
Yeah.
of course, that didn't happen. But
Yeah.
there were a handful of times that I was like, "Okay, this might happen. This might happen. Like, I might be rescued." Um it didn't turn out that way, and in the years since then, I've had so many people ask me, "Well, why didn't you scream? Why didn't you yell?" Which for years when people would ask me those questions that started with the words, "Why didn't you?" I would feel, like, so defensive immediately, and I didn't really know how to answer it because I knew that I'd done everything I could to survive, and I didn't understand what they didn't understand about it. It was never that straightforward, but now that I've had, 20 plus years to think about, analyze how I felt and why I felt as defensive as I did. Um, Nobody was there with me to see the abuse, to see like the starvation, the hunger, the rape. Like nobody was there to see me chained up. I knew exactly what these people were capable of. Nobody else knew what they were capable of. And I didn't know what police were capable of. I mean, I didn't have a reason to interact with police before I was kidnapped. So I didn't know what they were capable of, but I definitely knew what my captors were capable of. And when they would threaten me with my life, when they'd threaten me with my family's life, when they would threaten me and say, if anyone ever comes into this hidden campsite, we'll kill them and it'll be your fault. All those threats were very real. And again, I mean, I was a 14-year-old kid. I was a child and I'd lived a very sheltered life. I mean, like I didn't ever know what it was like to be abused. I didn't know what it was like to be hungry. I never went without shoes. I never went without a bed. I've lived a pretty sheltered, nice life, really. And so it's easy for someone to sit back and be like, well, if I was in that situation and I was brought out into public, I'd just yell and scream. But now, having experienced everything, I can honestly say that, I've experienced physically being chained up, and I've experienced being mentally chained up. And I can tell you those mental chains are so much stronger than any physical chain ever could be. Because I mean, a physical chain you can see. There's a way out of it. If you can
Yeah.
break your chain, cut it off, you can get away. But mental chains you don't see. And it can be such a impossible, invisible battle, and I feel like we see it in, domestic violence all the time, domestic abuse, where we look at survivors and you're like, "Well, you had a car, you had a phone, you had money, like, why didn't you just drive away?" It's never that easy, and you're not there with them behind closed doors. You don't know what threats they're living under or how their relation got to the point that it's at. I mean, you just don't know, and those,
Also,
again, those mental chains.
also too, and we'll get into this as well, but like even, this was a part as somebody who had watched stories so for so long that I didn't know this part of when you were at a library with them and the detective came up to you and said, "Are you Elizabeth Smart?" It's like you have been through so much trauma and has been so scarred by it that I think at that point e- e- I think anybody would be in that situation where you're not just gonna scream, you're so scarred by the whole thing. Going back to that first night, were you able to sleep that night? And if so, when you woke up, like what was that like? Just like realizing like this is my reality right now. This wasn't a bad dream. I saw you say that, you had to sleep in between. I'm like, this is real. What was that like?
So, by the time we got to the camp, the sun was up. I mean, it was morning. It was bright outside. And I mean, he immediately took me into the tent. His real wife, not me,
Yeah.
came in and he went out and she was like sponge bathing or trying to. I mean, I
Yeah.
was shy. That was not going to happen. And she forced me to change. She got up, took my clothes with her, left. I was sitting on this bucket. That's when he came in. That's when he said he was now married to me. That's when he raped me. It was after he raped me and got up and walked out of the tent. That's when I just remember being in like so much pain. I mean, physical pain, emotional pain. I mean, I remember seeing just blood running down my legs. Um, I just remember being in so much pain. Like, I don't know if I fell asleep or if I just passed out. But then I do remember when I woke up, it was because he was kneeling over me and he had like this metal cable and he was wrapping it around my ankle and then crushing bolts into place. So it I feel like it was never even a question if this was real because I woke up because he was chaining me up.
Right.
Um, and I mean, that just I just I felt like hope was lost in that moment.
Yeah, and you think to be going through it like for anybody, but for you not even knowing what sex was at that time or really having an understanding of any of that. Did it run through your head of maybe he's gonna try and get me pregnant? Is he like were all of those thoughts too spinning? And again, just to think of you even having to have these thoughts even at that age is something that is just so hard to wrap my head around. Was that a thought if he's gonna try and get me pregnant and start a family? Like, do those thoughts run by your head too?
Not immediately because I hadn't even started my period yet. Like, I'm a very late bloomer in lots of things. Um, so that wasn't like my first thought, but I was raised in a very conservative community, a very religious community. I mean, we went to church every single Sunday. I sat through so many Sunday school lessons where they were like chastity, virtue, purity, which basically was like don't have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
And nobody ever took the time to explain to me that there is a difference between, I mean, like true loving intimacy, consent based intimacy versus rape and sexual violence. So it all seemed to be the same thing to me. And because all those lessons had been like taught, like don't have it before marriage, like that made me feel like I was ruined now and that I was worthless. And if people knew what had happened to me, they wouldn't want anything to do with me. And they might be like, oh, well, lost cause. Like, let's just give up on her.
Mm.
So I didn't immediately think about the chance of me getting pregnant, but certainly, I mean, I've said this before, and I know it's quite a bold statement, but I think they just love to hear themselves talk.
Yeah.
And so they talked and talked and talked for 9 months solid, and I listened to them for 9 months, and, like, sometimes I was like, "You know what? This might actually be worse than being raped," and that's saying something. Um, but certainly during their talks, when they'd be talking, I mean, he would talk about, like, eventually having kids and, how, like, it would eventually be my duty to have kids, and, I mean, so that was something that I was like, "Oh my gosh, if this lasts long term, there's a real possibility
Yeah.
that I could," which, I mean, then just made me think even more, well, what if I was rescued after I was already pregnant or
Right.
after I'd already had a kid? Like, how would I ever enter society again?
Yeah.
Like, that was a terrifying thought.
When, I think, I've heard, like, one of the initial questions that I had was, what was the day-to-day like? Like, throughout this time, what's the day-to-day like? And I've heard you say that a lot of it really was just him talking and just listening to him talk, and I watched a video of him getting interrogated, and even the detectives, they can't keep him uh, going in the street. He's just all over the place, and you just hear him talking and talking and talking to where you can see exactly what you're saying and kind of understand that you mean it when you say it. He just talked and talked and talked, and of course, all about himself.
Mhm. Well, I think he had found actually the best way to manipulate people, which I'm gonna say we see this very commonly in perpetrators of sex crimes. Um, it's their desire for control, for power, for manipulation over
Mhm.
other people. I mean, unfortunately, most time when sex crimes happen, it's rarely about sex itself. It's about the control and the domination over another person. And I think he had found the best way to control people around him was through religion. And I think even if you rewind and you look back at that time period, I mean, I know I was just a kid, you were just a kid at the time, but I certainly remember where I was the day 9/11 happened.
Of
I mean,
course.
I remember coming down into our kitchen that morning, my mom had the TV on and watching the Twin Towers coming down. I remember rewatching it probably through every class at school that day. And then I remember that there was, like, this sense, I would guess across America, but definitely in Utah, that any form of, extremism made people very cautious, made people very wary, made people want to stay away, not necessarily interact. And honestly, I think he used that to his absolute benefit. I mean, the way he then was dressing, the way he spoke, the way he interacted with people. He'd always, flip and be like, we are servants of Christ and we are just trying to spread his message of hope and love. I mean, he just had a way of flipping everything. I think he found that that was legitimately the best way to control people, and he was intelligent. Like, he wasn't without brains.
Right, right.
And, so I think he definitely consciously made that decision to manipulate people through religion. I think he found it was basically a way for him to get away with doing whatever he wanted to do. And it made people stay away from him. It made people not question him.
Mhm.
And, like, I would say he very successfully used that tactic when after he was caught and was taken to jail and was, like the case went on so long in the state courts that the statute of limitations almost expired. I mean, he could have walked free because the state courts, it was all based on him being competent. And could he be made competent right now? And could his competency be proven back when he kidnapped me? And he just played, he kept playing his part and he kept getting away with it to the point that had I not been given the option to press federal charges, he would have been released. So I was incredibly fortunate that I was able to press federal charges and he was federally prosecuted.
Yeah, and I mean, it dangerously smart for sure to be able to have you for I think 9 months or what it was, and something that just was so shocking to me. I mean, you mentioned like 9/11. Of course, there's times in your life that you always remember. Your case for me was something that I always remember. I mean, I had to sleep in my parents' bed for 2 weeks because I was so scared about what had happened. But something that just shocked me, researching everything that I didn't know was they would take you into town, so much so to even to a party, but this moment in the library where you guys are at a library, a detective comes up to you and thinks that it's you. How he was able to talk his way out of it, and it might have been because it was a sensitive time with 9/11 and kind of the garb that, he had you in. How deflating was that for you to where it's like, this is your moment where you have this rush of, "Oh my god, like, I may be caught now," and he somehow talks his way out of it. It's like something from a movie, like, you can't believe that that actually happened. How deflating was that time for you?
I mean, it felt devastating
Yeah.
because by that point, I'd already been held captive for 4 or 5 months. Like, it had been a while already, so I'd already experienced lots of abuse, lots of maltreatment, lived under so many threats, and I knew they would follow through with their threats. I mean, they never just threatened me idly. They followed through with everything they said they'd do. And so I had always felt like my best chance of survival was doing what they said, number 1, but if I was ever gonna be rescued, to, I couldn't appear to be the one, like, making a bid for freedom because they'd also said they had friends that could get to my family. So, I mean, I felt like I had to play by their rules, and so in that moment, I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is it. Like, I don't have to do anything and he's gonna rescue me. Like this homicide detective is here. He's gonna separate me. He's gonna take me away. Like, and I'm not gonna be putting my family at risk because it won't look like I did anything. This is like completely out of my control." And I mean, that was probably naive of me to think that back then. But again, I was a child. And so when the police officer's asking all these questions, I mean, he had a total straight face. I mean, didn't didn't hesitate to answer questions, was very adamant about like these are our beliefs, like no, I can't let you see your face. I mean, just he played his part well. But I mean, also that being said, he'd been playing his part for a long time.
Yeah.
Even his own family, if you question them today, they would talk about, yeah, that didn't just happen one night. This was like years in the making that he started changing and um, just becoming more and more extreme.
Did you know at the time, like, did you know that this is probably did you see anything, like, news related about you? Or and did you know, like, this is probably the most highest, like, everybody's after me, like, this is all over the news? Like, did you understand that that was likely going on?
I don't think I realized just how like just how much it was publicized, just how much media there was around my story. I wouldn't say that I knew that, but Mitchell would bring back newspaper articles, not all the time, but occasionally, about the search efforts that were being put on for me. Sometimes he brought back, at least one time, he brought back a missing flyer of my face, and he would talk about how all of Salt Lake had missing flyers up in their windows and doorways and telephone posts, and there were light blue ribbons tied around all the trees, and I mean, he would talk about it, and then he'd also then turn around and kinda laugh about it and be like, "You know, the whole city's looking for you. Probably the whole world's looking for you, but nobody's ever gonna find you because I have you, and I get to look at your face down there on all these posters every day or whenever I go down there, and then I get to come back and I see your real face." And I mean, that was yeah, that was pretty devastating as well because it felt like it was true. Felt like nobody was ever gonna find me. Felt like he got away with everything. I mean, yeah, he was successful at it for 9 months.
Elizabeth, every time you see an interview you're in or anything, it's just again, I know I said it earlier, but like it's so hard to wrap your head around how anybody goes through that, but at your age and is able to come here, speak about it the way that you do and help people is every time you talk about it, it's more amazing to me that you're able to do this and I'm sure you are helping a ton of people because it's just so sick. And another thing I wanted to ask you, was there ever a time where you gave up hope that people were still looking for you? Because it had been so long that later into it, are you thinking maybe they are done looking for me?
Um, I I definitely felt like maybe the like, the world would stop looking for me, but I felt like my parents would always keep looking for me.
Was it hard for you then? I don't want to get into like when you had been saved and whatnot, to hear that people at one point had thought that your parents might have been behind it. Like, was that just awful to
Oh,
hear?
it sounded like the stupidest thing in the world to me. I was
Yeah.
like, "You thought my parent like, how could you even think that?" Like, my parents would never do that to me, or, like, I feel like I even heard someone say that my brothers might have been involved, and I mean, my older brother, he's only 18 months older than me. So, when I was 14 oh, he had just barely turned 16, basically, when I was kidnapped, and, like, that just seemed like the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard of, and I remember my dad telling me that people had accused him of killing me and then, like, burying my remains in the walls of our home and, like, just crazy things, and I remember at the time just thinking, "Why would anyone think that?" Like, that is absolutely nuts, but now since I've been back and I've been in this field of advocacy for a long time, like I do now understand why people thought that or questioned that. And unfortunately that's because, when a child is kidnapped, it's pretty common for it to be a family member or someone that they know. And, if you're not found within the first 24 to 48 hours, your chances of survival are extremely low. I mean, you're almost considered dead.
Yeah.
So I do understand why people thought that now, but at the time I was just like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Another thing that was just so amazing to me and really is a miracle is that your sister really helped kind of aid you being captured, or at least the FBI being like, okay, we could have something here, which is maybe 6 months into it, I don't know exactly, and excuse me if I have it wrong, but she came to your dad and said, "Dad, like, I think I know who it was."
Mhm.
For someone of that age, even younger than you, 6 months later to be able to kinda put the pieces together, have you talked to her about how she remembers being able to know that at that time or put that together?
Yeah, we've chatted about it. She said she was just sitting in the bedroom that we shared, and she was looking at, of all things, the Guinness Book of World Records. And she said, I just turned the page and there's like this picture of this super muscular woman. And she's like, I have no idea why that rang a bell in my mind. She's like, but just randomly, this picture just all of a sudden went off in my head. And she's like, Dad walked into the room about that time to tuck me into bed. And she was like, that's just when I was like, Dad, I think I know who kidnapped Elizabeth. And
That's
she's like, I don't know why. She's like, "I have no idea." She's like, I don't have a practice of looking at extremely muscular women."
Yeah.
She's like, "It just triggered it in my mind."
That is absolute and then correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like the FBI didn't they were so sure that it was this other guy who had been working, at your guy's house, who had a long history with the law and getting in trouble, and you could see even in the interrogations to him that they are, like, so sure
Yeah, the
that
police
it's
were
him.
really yeah, the police were absolutely convinced that he was the one that had kidnapped me. Um, I think they were pretty convinced that he had killed me and hid my body, and then he had a brain aneurysm while he was in jail and died, and, everyone or at least the police my understanding is then that the police officers were like, "Oh, well, shoot, like, we're probably never gonna find her, like, he's taken the secret of her burial basically to the grave himself." And I remember seeing my grandpa after I was rescued, and at one point he was like, "When I heard that Richard Reese had died," he was like, "I just felt so proud of you because, like, he died of a brain aneurysm." And I was just like, "I know it. He took her and she hit him on the head, and that's what caused the brain aneurysm." I wish that was the truth, but no.
And it was kind of the FBI's Most Wanted, show, which I remember was a big show, or America's Most Wanted at the time, that really helped kinda get it going. Have you ever been able to talk to him, the host, that because your dad had reached out to the host and saying, "Look, my daughter thinks it's this guy." Have you ever spoken to him and been able to thank him?
John Walsh, he's a dear friend. His whole family was amazing to my family while I was gone, and he's been yeah, I love him. I think he's been a good friend to my family, and he certainly played a huge part in my rescue because, yes, the police were not they didn't want to come forward. I mean, my dad had gone down to the station. He had, like a sketch artist had come in and tried to do a sketch of this man's face, and the police really didn't want to go public with it. And my dad was just like, "Why? Why would you not go public with it? Like, we need to find her. We need to find her." And so then he ended up calling John and was like, "John, Mary Catherine thinks she knows who kidnapped Elizabeth. She thinks it's this Emmanuel. He came to our house one time to do some work on it. And Mary Catherine thinks it's this man, but the police don't want to go forward with it." And John Walsh was going on Larry King Live that evening. And so it was when John went on Larry King Live that the sketch was actually released on Larry King Live. And ultimately, I mean, that did lead. I mean, my sister coming up with the name, the sketch being released, um, Mitchell's brother-in-law seeing the sketch and hearing the name Emmanuel, then calling in being like, I think you're looking for my brother-in-law. I think I know who you're looking for." That ultimately led to my rescue.
That's what's gonna be so interesting with the Netflix documentary is all these layers to it is just incredible, and it's such a miracle, and, another thing too, like, when you're still captured, he would go into town and beg for money. I know he called it something different.
Yeah.
What did he call it?
Ministering.
Yeah, ministering, which was begging for money, but he had been arrested while he was doing that, leaving you guys in the camp, and of all the hard things that you had gone through, just the, inexplicable things you had gone through, hearing you talk about almost starving and being so dehydrated just seemed like one of the lowest of the lows, waiting for him to return not having anything, and he ends up he got arrested and ended up showing up with, like, Kentucky Fried Chicken or something for you. I can't imagine even of all the lows, that point too, and I've heard you talk about just when you think you are at your lowest, something else would come. Is that one of those such as scenarios as well?
I mean, I remember getting to the point where I felt like I had made peace with the fact that I was going to die, that I was going to starve to death or dehydrate to death. And I felt like I had kind of come to terms with that. And and then because I mean at that point, like I couldn't even sit up. Like I just like I was just lying on the ground. And, and then he comes singing off key back into this hidden camp in Southern California at that point, and he's carrying, like, these bags of Kentucky Fried Chicken that was about to be thrown out into the bin, and I remember just looking at it and being like, "Well, that is not enough food. I haven't eaten in, like, a week. I'm starving." And then I also remember after taking, like, 2 bites, I couldn't eat anymore, and I was like, "This makes no sense. Like, I should be able to eat everything here. How is it that I can't eat anymore after 2 bites?"
I even saw you had, like, a piece of fruit that when it was at its lowest that you even went to look into the fruit, into the garbage or
Yeah, it
where
was
you
the
guys would
biggest,
go
yeah.
just to see if you could get something even out of that.
Yeah.
It's just it's the again, I to get your story out and for more people to hear from you, it is almost relieving for Netflix to do this to just bring more light on it, and I think there's so many more people too, that you can help, and then from what I have seen, then you start to build up to you being captured, and, he was kind of playing with fire, him and Wanda, in regards to, taking you to get to a party. It is just eh, taking you to a party or having you guys beg for money and all of that. Do you remember, like, what could you tell me about the day where you do finally get captured, and how long did it take you for you to really realize, like, "Okay, it's it, like, I'm safe?"
So, when we were approached by the police the day that I was rescued, I mean, that was the first day we were back in Utah because we spent the winter in California because we frankly would not have survived a northern Utah winter. And so it was the first day we were back. All these police cars pulled up. First, I didn't even think it was for us. Like, I thought maybe they're pulling someone over, but it was a whole bunch of them. They jump out, they come running over to us, and they start questioning my captors. And I mean, it was very intense questioning. I had a captor standing on either side of me. I mean, both of them, like, physically, like, standing so close to me that they were touching me. And I had a whole backstory that I was supposed to say if I was questioned, but I was supposed to stay as silent as possible. Like, I was supposed to say as little as possible, but they'd given me the backstory to say in case I did have to answer questions. And I remember they questioned my captors. They started questioning me, and again, my captors were standing on either side of me. Like, they'd gotten away from the police before. Why was this going to be any different? So I initially gave the answers I'd been told to give. They did eventually separate me from my captors and start to question me again, but I would like I would say it was very aggressive. And honestly, I don't think I'm that aggressive of a person. Like, I'm just not. Like, I'm not type A. Um, and I mean, yeah, I just like, it was scary. It was scary. Like, I didn't know if he was there to help me. I didn't know if I was in trouble. I didn't know if he would even believe me because my captors, on the other hand, they were adults. I was a
Yep.
teenager. Like, they were there saying, "Oh, we're ministers for Christ. We're going around the country spreading the good word, spreading the gospel." And I was just a kid. Like, why would they listen to me over the adults? And so I was really scared, and like they were really aggressive with me, and like it was like the power dynamic was so imbalanced. Um, I felt powerless, and I felt scared and afraid, and I
And
felt I felt
and
like either decision was bad.
when you said they were aggressive, was it the police officers trying to get it out of you that you're Elizabeth Smart in that regard?
I mean, just like the way they spoke to me, like the
Yeah.
tone of voice, like just how like I just like I felt um like they didn't feel kind.
Mhm.
They didn't feel, I don't know, it made me feel like I was guilty of something. It made me feel like I was in trouble, like, made me feel like I needed to protect myself, which the only way I learned to protect myself was doing what I was told, because otherwise I was gonna be killed.
Yep.
Um, And so, yeah, it was honestly, it was pretty scary when, they were questioning me, and then eventually when I did admit who I was, they handcuffed me, and they put me in the back of the car, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am in trouble, like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything because now I'm, here handcuffed with my hands behind my back, sitting in the back of the police car, being taken somewhere, not home, not being given a phone to call my parents."
Yeah.
That just seemed to confirm kind of my fears of that moment, and
So
I was
you can't even have this, like, moment of, like, relief at the time of, like, "Oh my god, this is it." Obviously, you had the moment with the detective, but you can't even have, like, that moment of, "Oh my god, I'm being saved." It's more of just, like, now I'm really scared with the way that they were talking to you and handcuffing you.
yeah, yeah. And then they brought me to, the Sandy police station, which I was brought into a small room, and honestly, I thought I was left alone, and I guess this should just, like, prove my state of mind, but they said there was another officer sitting in there with me, that there was a female officer in there with me, but honestly, I have no memory of that. I would have said I was in there alone. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember someone coming in because I had, like, a disguise on, and they said, "You can take off the disguise now." I remember that, but I felt like I was in there alone, and then, it wasn't until my dad showed up, and again, no one had, like, told me he was coming or warned me or anything, and he just, like, burst in through the door and was just hugging and crying, and it really wasn't until then that I was like, "Okay, like, everything's gonna be okay. I don't know if I'm still in trouble, like, I don't know what's gonna happen next, but I know my dad's here, and he's not gonna let anyone hurt me the way that these people have hurt me for the last 9 months, so whatever is coming is gonna be okay."
Would you say, like, I think anybody would use the term that after being there for so long and everything that happened that they're kind of brainwashed to it. But I've heard you kind of describe that it wasn't necessarily that. Like it wasn't necessarily you weren't necessarily brainwashed. Like, were you still able to separate like I'm being held captive, like this is the situation, or were you kind of brainwashed by the whole thing?
No. So, lots of people over the years have been like, "Oh, well, you totally had Stockholm syndrome. You totally had Stockholm syndrome." Personally, I'm not even sure if I believe that Stockholm syndrome is real.
Mhm.
Um, no, I never loved my captors, but I also knew I needed to survive. I knew there was a huge power imbalance between them and me. And, I realized very quickly on, I mean, my we talk a lot about, trauma responses, like, most people have heard of fight, flight, or freeze,
Mhm.
are, the commonly talked about ones, and now people talk about another one called fawning, but I really, really dislike that term because I feel like it makes it sound like you are asking for the attention, like you're fawning over someone, like you're being, like, flirty or like, "Oh, like, you're so," and, like, genuinely meaning it, "You're so wonderful," like, "Oh, pay attention to me, look at me." Like,
Yeah.
that's the feeling I get when we hear the phrase fawning. I think a much more, accurate phrase would be appeasement, because I remember very clearly having the thought in my mind that if I can get these people to like me, they will be less likely to kill me. And so I need to do everything I can to get them to like me so that they don't kill me.
Yep.
And I mean, I got to a point where it didn't necessarily take the conscious thought to know what to do because I was around them so much for so long, like, I knew how they worked. I knew what my expected response would be. That doesn't mean that I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is definitely the right thing." Like, "This is actually real." Like, they're actually, like, prophets of God. Like, this is I didn't ever think that, but I knew how I was supposed to act. I knew what I was supposed to say. I knew what they wanted to hear. And so I behaved that way so that I could stay alive, so that I could minimize abuse, so that I could live hopefully long enough that they either die or that I'm rescued.
Elizabeth, what do you credit that to? Like,
It seems like you're very mature for your age, again, even at the time, because like, I've heard you talk about how, you originally said to him, "If you're gonna rape and kill me, like, please do it now so that your family could find you," or coming to that decision of, "I'm going to obey everything that he wants in order to stay alive," and I think that's a large part of why you're here today. What do you credit that to? Have you always been kinda wise beyond your years? Is that your family?
Um, I I actually think that, like, the best gift my parents ever gave me was that I always knew that I was loved unconditionally. Um, and so knowing that at that time, I knew that even if nobody else accepted me, my family would still want me back, my parents would still want me back, and that would be worth surviving for. So, um, surviving meant doing whatever I had to do to survive, meant doing what they told me to do. So, I mean, that did always seem pretty clear to me of what I needed to do. And I mean, like, I remember there was this one girl in junior high, which everyone liked her. Everyone liked her. Like, she was friends with the Mexicans, she was friends with the Polynesians, she was friends with everyone, and I always really, really admired that about her. And I remember, like, thinking, like, "Why does everyone like her? Like, what is it about her that makes her so special that everyone likes her?" Like, I've never heard a bad word said about her, and it was just because she was kind. She was kind to everyone. Like, she went out of her way to, like, be kind to, like, people who were sad or having a bad day. I mean, she just was kind to everyone. And, but I feel like because 'cause I'd seen that example and because I knew my parents loved me, I was like, "That's what I have to do. That's exactly what I have to do."
That's amazing. It's powerful. I'm not one that gets emotional too often, but it's just it's powerful. It really is. And I think a lot of times you hear people it just puts things into perspective of, some of the things that we may complain about. Seeing you being able to have the strength that you do and go through what you did, it completely puts so much into perspective for me. And I think a lot of people that are going to watch the documentary that have seen your story, and on top of it all, you could go on and just live your life. I can understand after all the media attention that, you just want to live your life quietly, you have your family, but using your voice now of what you've seen, it's going to impact and just help so many people. I just want to ask you a few more questions as we kind of close down here. Um, my dad actually he wanted to know this. I was talking to him about everything, and he wanted to know when it was time for you to testify against them. And I think that's kind of sad. It's like, you've gone through all this, now you still have this long trial that you had talked about, so it's not like technically over yet. What was it like getting ready to testify them and against them, and then seeing them in court as well? What was that experience like?
So, I mean, it was, you know, 8, 8.5, 9 years, by the time my case made it to trial. Um, yeah, it was a long time, and I actually was living in Paris at the time, and I remember coming back to the States, and I was interviewed in depth, more in depth than I'd ever been interviewed before by the FBI, by the prosecution, just trying to get every detail, trying to get as much information as they could about what happened. And I mean, like, it was okay, like, I could talk about it, but, I mean, it is exhausting. It is draining. I mean, like, it was a very emotional experience, and then a lot of time had passed, and, as I'd be talking with them, they'd ask me a question, and I'd give them my immediate answer, but then the more I talked about it, then I'd be like, "Oh, you know what? Actually, like, can I go back to this answer because, um, now that we're talking about it, like, I remember more has come to the surface because it had been a long time, and like, when I got back, I didn't wanna spend the rest of my life thinking about it. I wanted to get busy living, you know? Um, so that was, I'd say, the pretrial, like, interviews were exhausting, and then, the actual trial itself, I mean, that was exhausting, and I just remember Like, I remember sitting in there and listening to so many testimonies and just being like, "This is for the defense? Like, this is not helping the defense. Like, go ahead, interview them all day. Like, this is only helping the prosecution." Like, I remember I yeah, I j and I remember just thinking, "How like, what? I don't understand your argument for innocence or, like, not being competent. I don't understand. What is your angle here? Because I can't see how anything that anyone is saying is actually helping your side." And, I mean, in the mornings before court actually started, um you'd always know when Mitchell got there because, they'd bring him in, he'd be shackled, and there'd be, like, the US Marshals on either side of him, and as soon as, like, the door from the door into the building, I guess, from his armored car, whatever he arrived in, and the door to the building would open, he would start singing church hymns, like religious hymns, and he'd just keep singing and singing. He'd like close his eyes and kind of tilt back his head, and he'd just like be singing and singing. So you knew he'd arrived before he even walked into the room. He'd keep singing as he walked into the room, and like they'd sit him down with his attorneys, and he just kept singing. The judge would come in. The judge would warn him to stop singing. He'd keep singing. The judge would eventually order him to be removed to a room. He'd still be singing as they let him out. And then, I mean, I remember asking if he kept singing the whole day or if he stopped, and they'd say as soon as he got into the room, he'd stop. And there was like a bed that a lot of times he'd go lie down on, and he'd just lie through the whole thing. Even there was a screen for him to watch and he could hear and stuff. And I feel like I was told that the only time he really got up and watched and listened to what was being said was when I took the stand and when I gave my testimony. But I mean, going into the trial, I was really like nervous to see him in person. I mean, I hadn't seen him in person since the day I had been rescued. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what he was gonna do or say. Like, was he gonna start yelling at me? Was he gonna start yelling at me to, like, repent? Because I could totally believe that. I mean,
Mhm.
that would be in character.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just didn't know what to expect. And one day during the trial, I remember he came in doing the whole singing thing. They sat him down, and all of a sudden he stopped singing, and I was like, what is going on?" And I remember looking over, and he'd fallen out of his chair, and he was having a seizure on the floor. And I remember just being so disgusted with the defense attorneys because they were like, "Emmanuel, Emmanuel," like, not even calling him his real name. Like I felt like they were, like, babying him, giving in to, like, his sick and twisted ways. And then I remember paramedics coming in and carrying him out on a stretcher, and I feel like the only time he ever looked at me and made eye contact with me was when they were carrying him out on the stretcher. And I do think he did have a genuine seizure, but it also felt like in that moment, I felt like when he looked at me, he was like, "See, I'm winning, like, I'm still in control, like, I'm getting out of this," kinda thing. Um, but at the end of the trial, like, during the trial, I remember just having so much, like, disgust with the defense attorneys. I mean, there was one in particular that I was like, "Do you even know what you're saying?" Like, I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world, I'm not. Like, there's plenty of things that go right over my head, but, like, I can't even understand what you are asking, and the person that you're talking to, like, they're just a normal person too. What are you saying? It wasn't the lead attorney, it was a different attorney on the team. And then at the end of the trial, once, he'd been found guilty, the head defense attorney came up to me, the lead attorney, and he was like, "Elizabeth," he's like, "I want you to know that I did the absolute best job that I could in this trial, and I did it for you because I never want you to have to go through this again. I never want this to be called a mistrial. I never want like sentencing to be appealed. So I did absolutely everything in my power to like give him the best defense I possibly could. And honestly, because he came up and told me that, I went from having no respect to him to having a mountain range of respect for him.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. I've never thought of it that way because I've always wondered a lot of times in these cases, like how does somebody morally? I mean, these defense attorneys, I'm sure, had kids. Like, how do you go up and defend this guy? And I know everybody has the right to an attorney. When they said that, did you believe what he or she had said? I mean, did you believe it?
I mean, I believed it from the lead attorney. Like the other two attorneys on the team, they didn't come up to me and say anything, but I definitely believed it of him.
Good. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I in regards to the trial, something that infuriates me, like gets my blood boiling. Wanda Barzee got, I believe, 15 years in prison and is now able to live a free life. This is a person who he asked her if you were too young for him to rape you. This is like she is every bit in my eyes as fault as him as well. How was that for you? And because like to me, it's just infuriating. Like, was that very frustrating to see her get 15 years and be able to walk the earth?
Yeah, I felt like that I had been disappointed. I mean, felt like I'd been let down. I felt like, this is not justice. Like, and I think that actually took me a while to learn. We don't actually have a justice system because when victims of crime have to testify or they were killed, there is no such thing as justice. You don't get back what was taken from you. You never get back what was taken from you. I'll never get back those 9 months of my life. I'll never get back all the different things that he took from me. So we have a legal system, and I think understanding and differentiating that is very important. And so when she was released, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, how can this be okay?" And they're like, "Oh, but Elizabeth, like, this was as much as we could hold her for. This was the max we could give her." And I was like, "She's just as guilty as he is. She had a prior marriage with 6 kids, like from the prior
100%.
marriage, and I'm younger than her youngest child. Like, are you kidding me?" Um, but I mean, there was apparently nothing that anyone could do about it. And I remember that the governor was like, "Oh, we'll be keeping her on a short leash. We'll be watching closely over her." But it still just kind of felt like this is not fair. But I will say, because of that experience, it gave me a lot more compassion and understanding for the survivors whose perpetrators never even spend a day in prison, who are never
Yep.
even accused, who like get to walk free every single day of their life, which is the vast majority of perpetrators. It's only like 1 out of 1,000 perpetrators is ever successfully prosecuted. I'm like, that's a horrible statistic. So I feel like if there was any good to come out of it, it helped me have a deeper sense of compassion for these other survivors whose perpetrators might still be in their lives every single day.
Yeah. And excuse me if this is too deep of a question, but something I did want to ask you is if Wanda Barzee wanted to sit down and apologize to you, and maybe, she's had time to reflect on it and would want to apologize to you, is that something that you would entertain or not at all?
So, she took a plea deal, and I wasn't happy with the plea deal from the beginning. And I remember saying I wanted an apology from her, like I wanted a written apology from her. And so, she did end up giving me a written apology, but it was like nothingness. I mean, it was just like words on a paper. And if she ever requested, like she wanted to meet with me or she wanted to apologize to me in person, no.
Totally
There's
understandable.
nothing. I mean, yeah, there's nothing. I never want to see her again. I never want to be in either of their presence. I never want her, remotely close to my children or my family.
Our co-host of the show, I was talking to him, and he said also too, you think about what you're going through, and then your parents, like for that to happen to their child and have to be in that courtroom and see that person, it just has to be so hard, just such a hard thing to do, and that is completely understandable, of course. And yeah, I did want to ask you that, and I do, as we close down, I do want to ask you too, if you could just tell a little bit about the charity that you have and whatnot, and tell the people about that, because I think a lot of people are going to be touched by it and want to help. I know I certainly do.
Yeah, so shortly after the trial ended, my dad and we started the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. And for a number of years, we just kind of connected people to other people to try to help make a difference. But then probably about 7 years ago, I felt like I was like, okay, like we don't like I don't want to necessarily just like be in the background, like connecting people. Like I want to do something more. I want to like make a really strong stand. And so I feel like that's kind of when I took a much larger role in moving the Elizabeth Smart Foundation to where it is now. And so we have a number of programs, one of which I'm like so proud of and excited about is called Smart Defense. And it's a self-defense class that we offer, but it's all very trauma informed. It's a combination of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and Krav Maga. And I mean, my program director, she's a survivor herself, but she is also like, I want to say she's 5-time world champion of her weight class in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like she's probably a head shorter than me, but she could take me down in half a second.
It
Like,
might have been the girl that your sister saw from the Guinness Book of World Records.
probably not her, because it probably would look at her and be like, whoa, muscle mommy. But it's just it's an amazing program. We do like a lot of breath work throughout it. We talk what consent is, because I mean, this is a physical class, and it is always female led, but we always have a male coach as well, because statistically it'll probably, not always, but it'll probably be a man
Sure.
acts out against the women. And so we want to be able to have a accurate, we want them to be able to accurately fight off that person or understand what that kind of weight and that kind of strength feels like. And I mean, they do put hands around your neck. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have people put their hands around my neck ever. And
No.
so, I mean, it can be quite shocking. And so we talk about what consent is, and before any of our coaches ever interact with our attendees, they'll be like, do I have your consent to put my hands around your neck? And if no, that's fine. They don't do it. So it is very consent based. And we are in almost all of the public university as an accredited class here in Utah.
Amazing.
And I hope to see it extend far beyond Utah. I'd love to see it expand worldwide, because this is a worldwide issue. But I'm really excited about where it is today. We have another program called We Believe You, which is very important to me, because I feel like probably one of the most common responses that I get is I tried to share my story, but nobody believed me. Or I'm too scared to share my story because I don't think anyone will believe me, because this person has money, or this person's well known, or it's a family member, or for whatever reason, whatever it is. And I look back on my own healing, and I just think, nobody ever questioned whether I was kidnapped or not. No one has ever really questioned whether I was abused. I mean, you always get the conspiracy theorists or the crazy outliers, but 99.9% of people I come into contact with, they've never been like, Elizabeth, are you sure you were kidnapped? Elizabeth, are you
Yeah.
sure you were chained up? Are you sure
Yeah.
these things happened to you? Did that really happen? I just don't think so. And I think that made such a difference for me, because I wasn't I knew it wasn't my fault. I mean, I will say it, like, took a long time for me to let go of, like, the shame and the embarrassment around the sexual abuse. That was hard, but, like, nobody ever didn't believe me, and I feel like that gave me then a safe space to heal and to move forward with my life and, um, pursue the things that I wanted to do because I wasn't necessarily carrying around just like this deep, dark secret that was eating me from the inside out. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the saddest things that I see is that so many victims are not believed. So they carry all this darkness and this weight around inside them. And it does end up destroying them from the inside out. I mean, their bodies are still breathing, but they have a huge loss of life because they're not, their bodies are surviving, but they are not living. And I think that is tragedy. So this program that our We Believe You is all about giving survivors a place to share their stories as much or as little or not at all as they want, helping them know that there are people out there that believe them. I mean, false reporting is somewhere between 2 and 8%. I don't know about you, but like if I ever math is I'm terrible at math.
You and
Um,
me both.
I got 92% on a math test. Like, if I got only 8% of questions wrong, I was like, "That's an A. I will take that."
Yeah.
And so I feel the same way. And 8%, I mean, that's probably wrong. It's probably much closer to 2% because I doubt the actual statistics that we have here in the United States, 1 in 5 women, I bet that's probably a low statistic of
Yeah.
how many women are actually sexually abused. I bet it's actually much higher than that. And so, this is about, yeah, providing a safe place for survivors to share their story. This is about trying to spread awareness on how we should respond to victims and try to help communities just become safer places for survivors to talk about what happened and be able to treat them with the compassion and understanding that they deserve.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen it a lot more in cases that you've worked with too, but there almost seems to be like, for victims who are sexually abused, that there is this, they have like an embarrassment that they were sexually assaulted or raped, and of course they shouldn't be, but that's easier said than done, of course. And hearing you talk about it, you're very open about it, and I think it can give them confidence because you've talked about how you're able to separate. Now you have a husband and you have a family, and you're able to separate what had happened to you back then, which was not your choice, and separate a family and being intimate and starting a family and just being able to separate that is incredible. And the way you talk about it, I just think it can give people a lot of confidence too. And it's incredible. And I mean it not to use like a corny term, but like you really are a hero. Like you really are, and not just for what you went through, but what you're doing with after now. I just am blown away. And with the charities, I know we have a very, very loyal fan base and a very loyal audience. Is there a link where people can donate to that we can put on? Is that something that we can do?
Absolutely, like,
Awesome.
got elizabethsmartfoundation.com. I mean, you can donate directly to our survivor support fund because, sorry, I get on my soapboxes and I don't stop, so I'll try to not
No. We
forever.
want it.
We within our We Believe You campaign, we started the Survivor Support Fund because once a person is taken out of the abuse or the abuse has ended, it's easy for people to walk away and be like, "Oh, well, it's done now. Like you can move on with your life." But it's really not that easy. There's the cost of therapy, there's the cost of trial, there's the cost of rebuilding a new life. I mean, there's so many factors going into it. I mean, I think what really started this for me, one story in particular was one girl, she had been horrifically abused. I mean, she had been kidnapped. She'd been trafficked. She'd been just unbelievably abused on every level you can imagine. And she was able to escape. She was able to get on a plane and fly back to Utah. The FBI met her at the gate. They took her up to the hospital for a rape kit, which I hope I hope nobody you know or yourself ever has to go through it because it's not a pleasant experience. She went through the rape kit, and then, 3, 6 months later, she started getting medical bills for the rape kit, and I was like, "Wait, I thought there's state funding in place to cover the expenses of a rape kit. How is this happening? How are you getting billed for a rape kit? Are you kidding me?" And, we actually had someone contact us and say they wanted to um, this cover her medical bills, and so after that happened, I was just like, "We need to start, like, a survivor fund," which truthfully, like, we don't have a lot of money, but we do what we can, and sometimes that's, a deposit on an apartment. Sometimes that's an airplane ticket to family in a different state. Sometimes that's to try to help with counseling or attorney fees, or maybe they're trying to go back to school, and it's trying to help with books or tuition. Again, we do have very limited resources, but we try to do what we can. So people want to donate there to our survivor support fund, that would be greatly appreciated as well.
I'm gonna connect with you after to put the link below for people to do it, and I'm gonna tell you myself. I mean, with the fan base we have and what we've been able to do, it's given me the ability to do this as a full-time job and whatnot, and give me financial freedom. There's nothing more that I enjoy than giving back and doing something to this. So I will be making a significant donation to it. I just would love to do it. It's the least I can do. I want to thank you so much for your time. Again, we're going to put that link below. Please thank your husband and his friends for the support. I appreciate it. But again, you really are. You're a hero. And the Netflix documentary is coming out as well. So for people to take a look at that, thank you so much for your time, Elizabeth, and everything you do. I am honored to be able to do this with you. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.